Torres family reunion was held every August in the backyard of Richard and Carol's house in Plymouth, and every year the same thing happened. Someone burned the burgers, someone cried, and someone made a joke at Maya's expense. This year was no different, except for the part where she ended up on the ground. The backyard was sloped, nothing dramatic, just enough that Maya's wheelchair kept wanting to roll sideways toward the garden bed where Carol grew tomatoes. She'd learned to compensate. Over the 3 years she'd been in the chair, a little pressure on the left wheel, a lean to the right, the kind of micro-adjustments that had become automatic, like breathing. But the grass was long, Richard had forgotten to mow, and the wheels kept catching, and Maya was tired. She'd been tired for 3 years. Tired was her baseline. Need a push? Ethan was standing over her, holding a plastic cup of beer, grinning the grin he used when he wanted something from someone. He was 2 years older, broad-shouldered, the kind of guy who'd been good at every sport he'd ever tried, and had the trophies in his childhood bedroom to prove it. He was a physical therapist now. The irony was not lost on Maya. "I got it," she said. "Come on, let me help." He didn't wait for her to say yes. He put his hand on the back of her wheelchair and pushed. Hard, harder than necessary. The kind of push that was a joke, until it wasn't. The front wheel hit a clump of grass. The chair tilted. Maya grabbed for the armrests, but it was too late. The world tipped. The sky came in. Blue, August, cloudless. And then the grass was in her face, in her mouth, in her palms as she tried to break the fall. Her legs, which never did what she wanted them to anyway, splayed out uselessly under. The wheelchair landed on its side next to her, one wheel still for a second. Nobody said anything. Then Ethan laughed. Not a mean laugh. The kind of laugh you use when you've done something stupid and want to frame it as, "Jesus, Maya, you're lighter than you." A few relatives, a cousin, Danny, Ethan, the one who worked at the car dealership, said, "Nice one." Someone else, "You okay?" But it was half. The way you ask when you already know the answer is supposed to be. Maya was on her back in the ground. She could feel the dirt grinding into her. She could feel the August sun on her. She could feel, below her waist, the familiar, endless nothing that had been her constant companion since the transverse myelitis fried the nerves in her spine. She closed. She counted 3. She did the thing her therapist. Name 5 things 4 you touch. 3. Stop faking for. Ethan's voice, loud enough for the whole year. The kind of line he'd been perfecting for years. Ever since the first Thanksgiving when she'd said she couldn't stand for the show. And he'd rolled his eye. "You don't." It had started. Then it had bit. Then it had become the family's default way of talking. The sister who faked, the daughter who exaggerated, the cousin who used the wheelchair. "Yeah, Maya. You had us worried then." Or laughter. Maya eyes. The sky blue. The grass was south. She thought he'd get up. "I call for help. I make a scene." But she'd done all things before, every time. They were the same. Ethan said she was reacting. Carol said, "I didn't mean it." Richard said, "I'd get in the middle." And Maya was the one who ended up apologizing, causing a fuss. Say anything. She just looked at the sky and waited for someone. Not laughter, not a joke. The deliberate, controlled sound of him clearing his throat. The kind of that says, "I am here, have been here, and you have been here." Died. Not all at once. It faded, like someone turned the volume knob. Her head. Standing behind the cluster of relatives near the picnic where the coolers were, was Doc Honquo. He was of lemonade. He was wearing a button and khakis. The outfit he changed into after Maya had invited him to in on a whim. He'd been in Ann Arbor for a conference. She'd said, "You should come, meet my family. I'd like that." He was standing there and seen everything. The push, the laughter, the stop tension. Cleared his throat again. Then he said 5 words. "I'm her You're wrong." 5 words. Quiet, even. The kind of voice he used when he was telling a patient news. Precise. The yard went completely silent. The kind of silence where you can hear a bee buzzing around a potato salad. Face went red. The red of embarrassment. The red of being caught. Opened his mouth, closed it. "Opened again? So?" he said. His voice was too loud. "She's still faking. I've seen her walk. I've seen her. You've seen her use a walker on a good day," Dr. Okonkwo said. He set down his lemonade. He walked toward Maya. Stepping past Ethan wasn't there. Which is not the same as walking. And who knows? Knelt down beside Maya. His voice changed. Softer now. The voice in the exam room. "Maya, can you feel your... No." Her voice was small. She hated that it small. "I know." He looked at her elbow. The one she'd landed on, starting to bruise. "Did you hit your head?" "No." "Good." He looked up then. At the relatives. At Ethan, who was standing there with his beard up, red-faced. At Carol, who was just now coming around the side of the house with a platter of deviled eggs. At Richard, who was very interested in the grill. Dr. Okonkwo looked at each of them. One, slow and deliberate, the way a teacher looks at a class full of children who think they know is wrong, said anything. Set down the deviled eggs. She hurried over, not to Maya, not off the grass, but to Ethan. She put her hand on his arm. Ethan, honey, maybe you should... Mom, Maya's voice. From the ground. Still on the ground. Someone please help me back here. Carol looked at her. Half a second, just half a second, Maya saw something in Heather's face. Guilt, maybe. Or recognition. The brief, terrible understanding that her daughter was lying in the while she comforted the son, and then it was gone. Carol's face into the expression Maya knew well. The peacemaker's face. The face that said, if we just... it will go away. Honey, Carol said. Can't you just let it go? Embarrassed, Maya stared at her mother. The August sun was warm. The grass was in her hair. Dr. Okonkwo was still kneeling beside her, of the wheelchair, help. And her mother, her own mother, was asking her to let who'd pushed her. Yeah, Maya said. She didn't mean for it to come out sharp, but it did. Sure, Mom, let it go, just like last time. And the time before that. Dr. Okonkwo stood up. He righted the chair. He held Maya transfer, his arms steady, hands careful, the way he'd been taught, her family had ever bothered to learn. She settled a seat. She brushed grass off her pants. She looked at Ethan, who was still standing there, holding his beer as a weapon. This isn't over, Ethan said. Quiet enough that only Dr. Okonkwo could hear. You set me up. You knew he was back there. Maya didn't answer. She looked at her mother, at her father, who was still staring at the grill, at the relatives who were suddenly very and their deviled eggs and the weather. She turned her wheelchair toward the house. Dr. Okonkwo walked beside her. It's enough that nobody could. He was with her. Behind them, Carol said, Maya going. Maya, 3 years ago, Maya Torres could run. Not fast. She'd never been fast. But she could run. She could run 5 kilometers along the Huron River Trail on Saturday mornings, her headphones in, the Michigan humidity sticking her shirt to her back, and she could think about nothing except her stride and her breathing, and the way the sunlight hit the water. She was 23. She had a job at a small press in Ann Arbor, a boyfriend named Sam who made terrible coffee but good conversation, an apartment above a bookstore on State Street, and legs that worked. That was the thing she missed most later, not the running itself, the not thinking about it, the way her body had just been there, reliable, unremarkable, something she used without noticing, like the air, like the floor, like something you only appreciate when it's gone. It started with mono. She'd gotten it from a coworker, the kind of thing that goes around an office in February, when everyone's tired and the heat is too high and somebody coughs without covering their mouth. She'd stayed home for a week, slept 14 hours a day, watched bad TV, and this sucked, but I'll be fine. She wasn't fine. The fatigue didn't lift. It got worse. Then the tingling started, first in her toes, then her feet, then creeping up her calves like something crawling under her skin. She told herself it was stress. She told herself it would pass. She told herself a lot of things. The day she fell was a Tuesday. She was getting out of the shower, one foot on the bath mat, and her left leg just gave. Not a slip, not a cramp. A complete absence of wrists, like the wire connecting her brain to her leg had been cut. She hit the side tub, then the door, and she lay there, naked, wet, trying to will her leg move. And Sam found her 10 minutes. He called 911. The ambulance came. The ER was bright and loud and cold. They did work. They did ET. They did an MRI. The too tight. Maya was claustrophobic, panicked. They gave her Ativan, and then the doctor came in with said, I have news, and I don't know how to say. Transverse, the doctor said. Inflammation of the spinal cord. The MRI shows a lesion at T6. It's like permanent. Permanent. The word bounced around Maya's brain ball. Permanent. Not C. Not. She spent 6 months hospital, then a skilled nurse facility, then outpatient. She learned to transfer. She learned to drive with hand controls. She learned to dress herself from a seated position, to cook chair, to live in a body that had... Ethan came first. He'd show up at the hospital after work, still in his physical scrubs, with coffee from the cafe stairs, milk latte. He'd sit by the bed and ask about exercises, help her with the stretches the therapist had assigned, make jokes about how she was the worst patient ever, because she kept trying. He was good at it, the support, the encouragement, thing. He was a physical therapist, knew the body, knew injury, recovery. But as the weeks turned into months and the doctors kept saying permanent, and Maya not walking, something did. Subtle at first. A sigh when she was tired. A comment about how you active. A joke. Come on, Maya. The first said it out loud, really said it. 2 years ago, the family was gathered in the same backyard, same sloped lawn, same tomato plants. A family photo. Everyone standing on the patio, smiling, written on the camera. Maya, can you stand for this? Carol had asked. Just for the picture? I can't. My legs. Ethan had been standing holding a beer. You stood yesterday. I saw. With a walker? That was with a walker. For 10 seconds, and it hurt. See? Ethan had looked at the relatives, grinning. She can do it. She just doesn't want to. She likes the attention. Someone laughed. Then someone else. Then the whole group. Not mean laughter, the uncomfortable kind, the kind that happens when nobody doesn't laugh. Maya had sat in her wheelchair, looking, and she'd thought, this is how it starts. This is how they turn it into a job. Have to feel guilty. Stood for the photo. They'd taken it without her. Carol had said, we'll Photoshop you, and they never did. The photo was on Carol's fridge for 2 years. Maya wasn't in it. Dr. Okonkwo had cut life toward the end of rehab. First neurologist had retired. Practice had assigned her to him. James Okonkwo, Nigerian American, raised Detroit. Quiet, with hands that were always warm, was always even. He'd read her chart, looked at her MRIs, and then he'd looked at her. Really looked the way doctors sometimes. And he'd said, you've been through a lot. And I don't just mean the myelitis. She'd almost. Nobody had said that. Not her parents, brother, not her boyfriend. Sam had left her the diagnosis. I do this, he'd said, stood mostly. Dr. Okonkwo was the first person who'd looked at her, not just the diagnosis, and living inside it. He'd become over the next 2 years. He was the one who adjusted pain meds when the spasms got bad. He was the one who filled out the disability paperwork her insurance kept losing. He was the one who, when she called in tears because her physical therapist had said, you're not trying hard enough, had called that therapist's office and said, my patient is doing everything she can. If you can't, I'll find someone. And now, he was standing in her parents' backyard, in a button-down shirt and khakis, holding a cup of lemonade, and he'd just watched her brother push her while her family laughed. Transfer back into the chair. His hands were steady. He checked her elbow, already purpling, and raised where she'd hit the ground. Felt her wrist, her shoulder, her neck. Any dizziness? Nausea? Headache? No, just, she gestured at her elbow. This, it'll bruise. Ice it when you get home. He paused. His voice dropped. This isn't the first time, is it? A question. Maya looked at him, a man who'd been her doctor for 2 years, who'd never once made her prove she was sick, who'd taken her word for it every single time. And she thought about 2 years. Books. The you'd been try. The Thanksgiving photo. The times she'd stopped inviting him to family things because she couldn't stand watching child while she was the faker. No, she said. It's not. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. He did say I'm sorry. He didn't say that's terrible. He just nodded. The way he nodded when he saw something affirmed what he'd already suspected. Then we talk, he said. Ready. Maya looked across the yard. Ethan was by the grill, talking to Danny, gesturing with his beer cup, performing the role of wronged brother. Carol was carrying eggs back to the kitchen, her face tight, staring at them like they held the answers. Yeah, Maya said. We do. The drive home from Plymouth took 40 minutes. Maya didn't talk. Dr. Okonkwo followed her in his car. He'd driven himself to the reunion, and he'd insisted on following her home to make sure you get there safe, which she knew meant he didn't trust her not to have a stress-induced flare on the highway. She appreciated it. She also hated it. She hated needing anyone, and she hated that after 3 years. She still sometimes did. Her apartment was on the 2nd floor of a building on William Street. Elevator, wide doorways, a roll-in shower, the kind of place that had been renovated for accessibility and charged accordingly. She'd moved there after Sam left, when the apartment above the bookstore had become impossible. The stairs, the narrow bathroom, the landlord who'd said, we don't really do wheelchair access. She got inside. She iced her elbow. She fed her cat, a fat orange tabby named Mochi, who'd been a gift from Lila, and who was, Maya sometimes thought, the only living thing who had never once made her feel like a burden. She sat at her desk and stared at her laptop. Her phone buzzed. A text from Carol. Are you home? Are you okay? Maya typed, I'm home. I'm fine. She didn't say it. She deleted. You asked me to let it go because he was embarrassed. You didn't ask if I was. She said. Carol didn't. Maya sat there. The ice pack on her elbow was melting, water dripping down her forearm onto the desk. She thought about the about the relatives who'd quietly come up to her while Ethan was in. Aunt, who'd whispered, I'm so sorry. That was. And then hurried away like she was afraid someone would see. Cousin Rachel, who'd said, are you okay? And actually waited for an answer. And the ones who'd who'd suddenly found the potato salad fascinating, who'd checked. She thought about Ethan in his house, telling Danny and whoever else would listen that she'd set him up, that she'd known Dr. Okonkwo behind them, that she'd orchestrated the whole thing to make it bad. She could almost hear it, the tone of pity, the way he always framed himself. Her phone. This time was Lila. Just saw your mom. She posted a family photo reunion. You're not in it. Are you okay? Maya opened Facebook. There it was, his profile. A photo of the whole family on the steps. Everyone smiling. Ethan front and center with his own Carol. No Maya. The caption, beautiful day with beautiful family. So grateful. Maya closed the app. She put the phone on the desk. She sat there. The egg was warm now. Mochi onto her lap. V, purring. Indian drama. And Maya doing this. She didn't know something was. She knew. The way you know a storm is coming before the clouds. Did. The 5 words. Dr. Okonkwo saying, I'm her neurologist. You're wrong. The sound of the whole yard going silent. For the first time in 2 years, someone out her head had said it. Emily had heard it. People didn't care. That was the part she couldn't about. Not the push, not the laughter. The fact that a board-certified neurologist had stood in their yard told them they were wrong. Response had been nothing. Cast her to let it go. Had grilled burgers. Had called it a setup. The relatives had gone to their deviled egg. Her phone rang. Dr. Okonkwo. I'm home, she said. Safe. Elbows, nothing broke. Good. About your elbow. He paused. Maya, I need you to do something for me. And I want you to say no. Okay? I want you to write it down. All of it. Every time he said you're faking. Every time someone's laughed. Every time your parents have stayed silent. Dates, if you can hear them. Details. What was said. How you felt. He paused again. Not for a lawsuit. Not for the police, for you. Because when people do the same lie enough times, that you're exaggerating, that it wasn't that bad, that you're too sensitive, you start to believe them. You start to question your own memory. Writing it down fixes it. It makes it real. So when they tell you it didn't happen, you can look at the page. Yes, it did. I wrote it down. Maya was it. Mochi purred on her lap. The clock on the wall ticked. Okay, she said. I'll do it. She opened a new document. Titled it, The List. She started with the reunion. August 17th. The push. The fall. Stop faking. The laughter. Dr. Okonkwo's 5 words. Carol's, he's embarrassed. The Facebook. Then she went back. Thanksgiving 2 years ago. The family photo. Don't even try. The photo on the fridge. Christmas, that same year. Ethan had said, when she couldn't make it to Santa with the little cousin. She just doesn't want to. She likes being carried around. Laughed. Said, Ethan, be nice. In the tone asking you to. Easter. The family softball. Ethan had said, Maya could play if she wanted to. She shouldn't have sitting on the sidelines. The family cruise shouldn't go on. She could go. She just doesn't feel sorry for her. The time she'd had a UTI and ended ER with a fever of 100. And Ethan had said, she goes to the ER for attention. She wrote first. The pages filled up, single-spaced, small font, the kind of document that got longer and more precise the more she didn't edit. She didn't soften. She wrote what said, who said it, who stayed silent. It was 2 a.m. when she ached. Her eyes burned. Mochi was asleep on the pillow next to her. She'd filled 4 pages. It wasn't done. She knew there was more. There was always more. She'd been collecting these moments for 2 years, storing them in the back of her mind like in case nobody was ever going. Her phone buzzed. A notification. Family group chat. Ethan had posted a message. Maya hovered over the screen. She opened it. Some people will do anything for attention, the message read. Even lie about being sick. Below it, 3 little thumbs-up icons. Cousin Danny, Ray, and Maya's stomach dropped. Carol. Her own mother. Maya stared at the screen. The clock said 2:07 a.m. The document was still open on her laptop, pages of everything she'd been told to let go. Mother had just liked a post call. She closed top. Turned off the lights. She lay dead. Mo pulled against her side, the elbow throbbing, parked by the bed where she could reach it, and she stared at the. She didn't cry. She'd cried enough in the last 3 years to fake. What she felt wasn't sadness. It was something colder, harder. The thing that happens when you finally stop hoping someone will, and you start accepting that they won't. Tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow I figure out what to do. Tonight she just lay there, in the dark, and listened to her cat purr, and tried not to think about the fact that her own mother had just agreed, publicly, in writing, that she was a liar. The next 2 weeks were the longest of Maya's life, Not because anything dramatic happened, because nothing did. Ethan didn't apologize. Carol didn't call to take back the like. Richard didn't say anything at all. The family group chat moved on. Someone posted a photo of a dog. Someone asked for a recipe. Someone complained about the weather. And the message calling Maya a liar was still there. 3 likes, unaddressed, like a turd in a punch bowl that everyone was pretending not to see. That was the gaslighting. Not the big dramatic lies. The small daily relentless erosion of her reality. The way everyone acted like nothing had happened. The way Carol called and said, "How's your elbow?" Like she didn't know how it had gotten hurt. The way Richard texted, "Did you see the Lions game?" Like they were a normal father and daughter. The way Ethan posted a photo of himself at a physical therapy conference with the caption, "Helping people walk again." The audacity of the sheer unself-conscious performance made Maya want to scream. She didn't scream. She added to the list. Every day, something. The way Carol had said, "Ethan's been really stressed at work," as if stress was a reason to push your sister out of a wheel. The way a cousin had DM'd her, "I know he was wrong, but can't you just forgive? He's fake." The way Aunt Marisol had commented on Ethan's, "You should be ashamed of your," and Carol had immediately texted Marisol, "Please don't fan the I'm trying to keep this family together." Maya called. She told Marisol not to fan the flames. Maya said. She was in her wheelchair by the window, watching the rain streak down the. "My aunt, the only person in that family who's ever defended me, and my mom tells her, your mom is a professional peacekeeper." Her voice steady, the way it always was when she was. Peacekeepers don't want justice. They want quiet, and they'll sacrifice anything to get it. I've always known. After the doctor thing, after every. I thought maybe they'd finally. Lila's voice. They don't believe you. They know you're not faking. They just don't care enough to do anything about it. And that's worse, isn't it? It was worse. It was much worse. Because if they genuinely believed it was faking, there was something to argue against, something to prove. They knew. If we'd known, down, that she was really paralyzed, that she was really in pain, that she was really better. And they'd still let Ethan liar. Still laughed. Still didn't. Then there was only the choice they'd made, over and over, to prioritize Ethan's comfort. Maya's body knew it. The spasms started 3 days of the reunion, her legs jerking voluntarily, the kind that woke her up at 3 a.m. that made her cry out, that Mochi would run from under the bed. Pain climbed, from her baseline 3 out of 10 to a 6, a 7. The kind of pain that made her teeth ache and her vision blur and her hands shake when 10. She canceled 2 editing projects. She told her clients, "Family emergency," and they'd said, "No problem, take your time." And she thought, "Fancy." It's one way to put it. She called Dr. Okonkwo's office. The nurse, a woman named Pat who'd been there forever and who called her sweetheart, listened and said, "Hold on, Jack." "Dr. Okonkwo's not in today," left instructions. He said if you called about increased pain or spasms, you straight to the ER. No waiting. No, it'll pass. Straight to the ER. Ambulance? Maya said, "Have Lila drive me." Lila's been 15 minutes. Didn't ask questions. She helped Maya transfer to the car, her custom van, with the wheelchair lift that Lila had saved up for 2 years to install when you need me. Drove to the ER, and she held Maya's hand while the symptoms racked her body. And she said, "Got you," over and over, the way you say people who are scared. The ER gave her steroids and muscle relaxants. The spasms calmed. Dropped to a 4. The doctor, a resident who looked about 12, said stress-induced exacerbation, common in TM patients. By midnight, stayed over. She made tea. She sat on the couch in Maya's wheelchair and said, "You need to get out of this. Not the family and the cycle. The hoping, the waiting, It's you." "No," Maya said. "Do you? Because you keep going back. You keep answering their calls. You keep showing up to things where he's there. Keep letting them do this." Maya looked at her friend. His hair was in a messy bun. She was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt that said, "The future is accessible." She looked tired. Maya had woken her up after, but her eyes were sharp. She was the only person who asked Maya directly. Everyone else danced around it. Lila never danced. "What do you want me to do?" Maya said. "I want you to stop trying to make them believe you. I want you to start believing yourself. I will write that list you told me about. And then I want you to do something with it. Not for them. For you." Lila paused. "And I want you to stop going where Ethan is present. Just stop. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to make a speech. Just go. Let them fly." Maya thought about it. The idea of not going, of ceding that ground, of Ethan win by not felt like surrender. But then what am I winning by going? A pat on the head from Carol? A joke from Ethan? A silent nod from Richard? What was she actually getting out of these gatherings? besides pain and humiliation and a flare-up that landed her ER. She said. I know you're right. Good. Lila squared her hand. Then start tomorrow. Start with not answering Carol's next. You're ready to say what you actually mean. Carol called. Maya let it go to voicemail. The message was cheerful, bright. The voice kept when she was pretending everything was. Hi honey, just checking in. Dad made his famous chili. Thought maybe you'd want to come over for dinner tonight. Ethan's working late, so it'd just be us. Call back, just be us. Ethan's working late. The implication was clear. Come over, but only when the person who hurt you isn't there. And we won't talk, and we'll all pretend it's fine. Maya didn't call back. A list. She had last night. ER visit. Stress-induced flare. Steroids. Muscle relaxants. Lila drove me. Pain at 7. Then a new document. She didn't title it yet. She just started writing the list, not the facts, else. Something angrier, something more honest. She wrote, Brother pushed me out of my wheelchair at our family reunion. He said I was faking for attention. My family laughed. She stared at the words. They looked different age than they did head. Realer. She kept writing. The appointment with Dr. Okonkwo was on a Tuesday. Maya's pain had settled to a 5, better than the ER, worse than her baseline. The spasms were under control with the increased muscle relaxants, but her left hand still tingled, a faint buzzing that reminded her of the early days. The first weeks after the diagnosis, when her body had felt like a foreign country, whose language she didn't speak. Dr. Okonkwo's office was on the 4th floor of the Domino's Farms building, a weird, sprawling complex on the outskirts of Ann Arbor that looked like a Tuscan villa and housed medical practices and tech startups and a coffee shop that was surprisingly good. Maya wheeled herself in, checked in, and waited. She was scrolling through her phone, avoiding the family group chat, which had been silent for 3 days, the kind of silence that meant everyone was thinking about it but nobody wanted to be the first to speak. When she heard her name, Maya Torres, she looked up. A woman was standing over her, mid-30s, blonde, holding a toddler on her hip. Maya recognized her vaguely, a cousin by marriage maybe. Janet? Hey, the woman said. I'm Jenna, married to Kevin, Ethan's cousin. We met at the reunion. I wanted to say I'm sorry about what Ethan did. It was awful. Thanks, Maya said. She was surprised. People didn't usually say it to her face. Jenna shifted the topic. Can I ask you something? And you can totally tell me to mind my business. Then, he told us, at his birthday party back in... He said you could actually walk, that you just chose not to, that you liked the attention and the disability. Jenna's face was uncomfortable. I didn't say anything. I could have, but I didn't know. I mean, he's a physical therapist. I figured. Maya felt the cold. The one that wasn't-ness. It was harder, and colder, and... She'd known Ethan. She'd did it. But hearing it, the specificity, the June party, the disability line, she wasn't even on it. She worked full-time as her. Made it real in a way suspicious. He's been telling everyone, Maya said. For you. Jenna looked genuinely guilty. I'm sorry. I should have... It's not your fault, Maya said. And it was not really. Jenna was one more person who'd heard the story and chosen... But the person telling the story was Ethan, and he was the one who apology. They called Maya's name. She wheeled herself back to the exam room. Dr. Okonkwo came in her. A folder. Thick, the kind of folder that holds... He set it on it. I owe you something, he said. He started laying out papers on the exam table, next to her. Your full file, everything. From the initial diagnosis to last visit. He pointed to MRI. The one 3 years ago. The wall. See this? This bright spot here? That's the lesion. Takes thoracic level. Inflammation. Scarring. This is not functional. This is not psychological. This is physical damage to the spinal cord. You can't fake this. You can't will it away. You can't try hard to make it disappear. He laid out the next MRI months later. Then a year, then 2 years. The lesion was still there. Sometimes slightly smaller, sometimes the same. Never gone. EMG results, he said, laying down more papers. Nerve conduction studies. Rehab progress notes. Your therapists documented your strength, your range of motion, your limitations. Pain diaries, medication history. 3 years, Maya. 3 years of objective, verifiable medical evidence that you are not faking, that you are not exaggerating, that you have a real physical, neurological condition. He looked at her. You've been carrying this alone, he said. All of it. The diagnosis, the proof, the truth. And you've been letting them tell you it's not real. Because they're family. Because you want them to believe you. But you don't need them to believe you, Maya. Have the proof. Right here. He tapped the file. What are you going to do with it? Maya looked at her spread across the exam table. The MRIs, the EMGs, the rehab notes. 3 years of her life, reduced to black and white and gray, to lesions and nerve conduction velocities and pain scores. She'd seen all of these before, individually, but spread out this all at once, they were overwhelming. They were a mountain, and Ethan had been standing at the base of it, telling people Can I? Her voice caught. Can I have copies of all of it? Already made. He handed her a thick envelope. Redacted where necessary. Everything you'd need to show someone, a lawyer, a family member, a condition is real. Maya took the envelope. It was heavy. She had a lap and thought, I have proof. I always had proof. I just never used it. She went home. She sat at a desk. She opened the envelope. She spread out, the way Dr. Okonkwo had. And because she was angry, because she was tired, because her mother had liked a post calling her a liar and her brother had told everyone she could walk and nobody had ever once asked to see the evidence. She'd never done. She took the most relevant documents, the MRI report, EMG summary, the diet letter, the rehab, and she scanned them. She redacted her patient ID and she wrote a short message. For 2 years, my brother has told people faking my disability. Last week, he pushed and said, stop faking for it. My family laughed. This is what faking looks like. These are my medical records. Transverse myelitis, TX lesion, permanent paralysis, 3 years of objective evidence. I'm sharing this because I'm tired of being called a liar. I'm sharing this because if one person in my family looks at this and says, you were wrong, it will be worth it. She put it in the family group chat. She hit send. She put her phone face down. She wheeled herself to the kitchen and me. She tried not to check her phone. She failed. She checked it every 2 minutes. Nothing. For 3 hours, nothing. No replies. No reacts. No, we're sorry. The chat was dead. At 14 p.m., replied, Maya, that was private. You shouldn't have shared. That was it. Not, we were wrong. Not, I'm sorry I liked Ethan's post. Not, your brother shouldn't have. Just, you should not. Maya sent the message. She felt something inside her. The last thread. The one she'd been holding on to for years. The one that said maybe tomorrow they'll believe me. Maybe next time they'll defend me. If I just try harder. She closed the chat. She didn't reply. She wheeled herself to the window and looked out at the rain. It had started again, the fine that went on for hours, and she thought, that's it. The last time I tried to prove anything to them. That night, at 11:43 p.m., she woke up with a strange sensation in her left arm. Not pain at the absence. She tried to move her finger. They didn't respond. She tried again. Nothing. Her arm was paralyzed. She grabbed her phone with her right hand. She called Lila, he said. Her voice was calm. The calm of someone who'd already accepted what was happening. My arm won't move. I think it's a flare. I think you need to take me to the hospital. Lila was there in 12 minutes. She called 911 on the way. Ambulance came. The paramedics loaded Maya onto a stretcher. Left arm lay at her side, useless, and her legs were spasming. And the pain was back. 8 out of 10, 9. The kind that made her see star. And as they wheeled her out of, Maya thought, this is what they did to me. This is what family did. She didn't pass out. But she wished she could. The ER was bright and cold and smelled like antiseptic and fear. Maya was in a bed in Curtain Bay 3, her left arm propped on a pillow, an IV in her right hand, a heart monitor beeping somewhere behind her. The steroids they'd given her were making her heart race. 110, 115, the kind of tachycardia that felt like a bird trapped in her chest. The pain was down to a 6, but the arm was still gone. No movement, no sensation, just a heavy foreign thing attached to her shoulder. Dr. Okonkwo had been paged. He was on call. He'd be there in 20 minutes, the resident said. Carol called. Maya let it ring. Carol called again. Maya let it ring. On the third call, Maya answered. What? She said. Maya, where are you? I've been worried sick. You didn't come to dinner last night and you're not answering texts and I'm in the ER. Silent. Then what? What happened? Are you okay? My left arm is paralyzed. Stress-induced flare. The doctor says it's from everything. The reunion? The group? She stopped. She didn't want to give her mother the satisfaction of hearing how much they... Oh, honey. I'm so sorry. I'm coming. I'll call Ethan. He can drive me... Don't call Ethan. What? Don't call Ethan. I don't want... Maya? He'd want to... Maya's voice sharp. The steroids were making her irritable. Or maybe it was just the truth out. He pushed me out of her. He called me a faker. He posted in the family chat that I lie about being sick. I liked it. I don't want him here. I don't want either of you here. I have Lila. I have Dr. Okonkwo. Carol was quiet. Then, Maya, your mother, hung up. Maya threw the phone bed, bounced. The heart monitored her. Lila, who'd been sitting in by the bed, reached over and took me. Breathe. I'm breathing. You're not. You're doing that thing where you hold your breath. Maya exhaled. Monitor slowed. A little. Dr. Okonkwo arrived 20 minutes later. Rubs. He'd been at the hospital all rounds, and he had on his face, the one that said, "I've read the chart." He examined Maya's arm, reflexes, sensations, and he nodded, the way he did when the results confirmed it. Transverse myelitis exacerbated. Stress-induced. Steroids will help. We'll keep you overnight for observation. If the arm doesn't start back by morning, we'll do MRI. But I expect it to resolve. It's the I'm more worried about. The symptoms are severe. We'll increase the backload. He wrote orders. He talked to the nurse. He squeezed Maya's shoulder, the working one, and said, "You're going to be okay." Physically, the fee hung in the air. An hour later back, Carol was there, and behind her, Maya's stomach dropped. "Ethan," of coffee. He was wearing a hoodie and jeans like he'd been woken up. He looked, not worried, annoyed, like this was an inconvenience. "Hey," he said. He set the bedside table. "How you doing?" Maya stared at him. "What are you doing here?" Mom called. "Said you were in the hospital." "Family comes, Maya. Family does. Family does people out of wheelchairs. Jesus, are we still on that?" He stopped. He hadn't said he was sorry. He was about to say it, changed his mind. The mask slipped. Half a second, Maya saw it. The real Ethan. The one who didn't think he'd done anything wrong. The one who was angry, making a big deal. He recovered. Concerned brother face. "Look, I know you're stressed. And I know you're mad at me. But you're in the hospital. Can't you just not do this right? Then why are you here?" "Because Mom asked me to come." "You're my sister." "Because..." He gestured at the bed, at the IE, at the useless arm. "Wanted to make sure you were okay." Maya looked at him. At the coffee cup. At the hoodie. At the face that was trying so hard to look concerned and not quite off. And she thought, he doesn't think he's sick. Even now. Even in the ER, with a paralyzed arm and spasming legs and steroids running through my veins, he thinks this is performance. And then he said it. The thing she'd known he was thinking. He'd been thinking for 2 years. The thing he'd never hospital where people hear. "See?" He's quiet, almost to himself. "You got what you wanted. Everyone's paying attention to you now." The curtain moved. Dr. Okonkwo was standing there. He'd been for how long? 10 seconds? 30? He did. Maya saw his face change. The calm and harden into something else. Something angry. He walked into the bay, picked up the coffee cup from the table. Ethan's coffee. And he set it on the couch, away from the bed. His movements were precise, controlled. The way a man moves and doesn't want to "You just," Dr. Bo said. His voice was low. "Dangerous. You just told a patient experiencing an acute neurological condition in my emergency room that she is doing it for Ethan." "Who are you?" "I'm her neurologist." Dr. Okonkwo stepped closer. He was taller than Ethan, broader, voice. He didn't need to. "I am telling you to get out, now. All security and you removed. You can't." "I can. And I will. This is my patient. This is my ER. And you will not speak to her or anywhere else if I can help it." Dr. Okonkwo's voice didn't change volume. Temperature in about 10 degrees. "Go." Ethan looked at Carol. Carol looked at the floor. Nobody said anything. Ethan left. Didn't say goodbye. He didn't look at Maya. He just pushed through the curtain and was gone. Carol stayed. She was crying. Quiet. Shoulders shaking. Crying that was supposed to make Maya feel guilty. It almost worked. Old habits. "Maya," Carol said. "Why do you have to make everything so big? Can't you just let it go? For the family?" Maya lay in the bed. Her left arm was paralyzed. Her legs spasming. Her heart was racing from the steroid. Her mother was crying and asking her to let it go. And she thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I am too much. Maybe I am making it bigger than it needs to be. Maybe if I were a better daughter or sister, I could just let it go. Thought settled over her like a blanket. Heavy, cold, familiar. She didn't say anything. She cries. She listened to the monitor beep. She waiting. Lila came back at 7 a.m. She'd gone home to walk Mochi and change her clothes. She found Maya crying. Not sobbing. Quiet, running sides of her face and her. "Hey," said. Down and took Maya's hand. "Hey, what's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "Everything. I don't know." Wiped at her face with her working hand. "Lila, what if they're right? What if I'm making this bigger?" "Stop." Lila's voice was firm. "Stop right there. You are too much. Too cowardly. There's a difference." Maya looked at her. The sun was ER window. Full gray Michigan morning. The heart monitor beeped. Somewhere down the hall a baby cried. "I'm so tired," Maya said. And she meant it. Physical tiredness, though there was plenty of that. The other kind. The tiredness of fighting, of proving, of waiting for people who were around. So tired of being the last to be strong. "Then stop," Lila said. "Stop being strong for them. And if that means, then walk away." Maya closed her eyes. The arm was still gone, but somewhere down, something was shifting. Not the arm, else. Something that had paralyzed longer than her legs. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll think about it. Maya was discharged the next day. The arm came back, slowly, partially, like a light bulb flickering on. By morning, she could wiggle her fingers. By noon, she could hold a cup. By the time Lila wheeled her out to the car, the arm was weak but functional, and the doctors were calling it a transient exacerbation. Medical speak for it came back. Don't do that again. She went to Lila's house, not her apartment, Lila insisted. You need someone to look after you for a few days. And by look after, I mean, make sure you don't check the family group chat and have another flare. Maya didn't argue. She was too tired to argue. Lila's house was a small bungalow in the Old West Side, with a ramp that Lila had installed herself. YouTube tutorial, she'd said. It was surprisingly easy. And a golden retriever named Biscuit, who thought Maya's wheelchair was the best thing that had ever happened to him. Maya stayed in the guest room. Wide door, roll-in shower. The kind of accessibility that Lila had built in because you're here enough that you should be comfortable. On the third day, Maya made the call. Not to Carol, not to Ethan, to herself. She sat in Lila's backyard, Biscuit at her feet, the sun warm on her face, the arm almost back to normal. And she thought about the last 3 years. The diagnosis, the rehab, the Thanksgiving phone, the you don't even try, the push, the laughter, the Facebook post, the group chat, the the you got what you... She thought about all the times she'd swallowed it, all the times she'd said it's fine when it... all the times she'd shown up to family events where Ethan was... because not showing up would mean causing... all the times she'd let Carol talk her into just winner. He won't even... And then there, and Carol would say, surprise. And Maya would smile at it, and go home and cry, and she thought about the word, what it was supposed... what it actually meant. And she made this. She texted her parents. Not called, texted, because if she called, Carol would cry and Richard would sigh and she'd lose her nerve. A text was final. A text was something they could read and reread and couldn't argue with. And she wrote, Mom, I've thought about... I can't keep doing this. Ethan is not welcome in my life, home, or any event I attend until he publicly apologizes for pushing me out of the wheelchair, calling me weaker, and saying I was in the hospital, and until he actually educates himself about transverse myelitis and what it means. If you invite me to gatherings where Ethan's present, I won't come. This is not a punishment. This is how I protect my health and my sanity. I've had 2 stress-induced flares in 3 weeks. I can't afford a third. I love you both. But I can't keep choosing family peace over my well-being. She read it. Edited it. She read it again. She hit send. The reply came in 90 seconds. Carol. Maya, talk about this. Please call me. Maya didn't call. Richard called an hour later. Maya answered. Maya, Richard said. His voice was careful. Always was. Neutral. Reasonable. The voice of a man who'd spent 30 years. I don't think this is... Which part? The ultimatum. Ethan's your brother. You can't just cut him off. He's only... Dad. Maya's voice was steady. She was surprised how steady it was. He out of my wheelchair. He called me a liar. In the ER with a paralyzed arm, he said I was doing it for attention. And you stood there. You always stand there. You never say anything. You never defend me. And now telling me I'm being unfair? Richard, then, conflict. I know you don't. But conflict doesn't go, don't look at it. It just goes somewhere else. And for the last 3 years, it's gone into me. Into my body. Into the ER. She paused. Dad, I'm not asking you to choose. I'm telling you what if you can't give me that, if you need it at every family event, then but I won't be there. Richard was quiet for a long time. That I need to think about. She hung up. She sat in Lila's backyard. Biscuit rested his head on her. The sun was warm, and she felt not good, not relieved, but lighter, like she'd been carrying heavy for a very long time, and had finally let it down. That night, opened the document she'd started, the one that wasn't the one that began with, out of my wheelchair. She read what she'd written. It was raw, angry, unpolished. She kept writing. She wrote about the diagnosis. The day her leg stopped working. The way Ethan had... The first joke. The way it had spread. From a joke to a default narrative about her. She wrote about peacekeeping and Richard's silence, and the relatives who laughed here than confronting the truth. She wrote until 2 a.m. When she was done, she 1,000 words. Read it. She cried a little. She edited. She titled it, My Brother Pushed Me Out of My Wheelchair. My family laughed. She started a blog. She called it Still Fake. The question mark was intentional. The kind of dark humor that only people liar for years understand. She didn't use name. She did. She didn't name the town, but the details were specific enough that anyone would know. She went to bed. When the post had 200 views. By noon, 2,000. By dinner, 50,000. Next morning, 120,000. The comments were a river of this, told 100 different ways. My sister told people I was faking my fibromyalgia for pain meds. My Lyme disease is just anxiety. My brother-in-law calls me and says I could walk if I tried. And my uncle says I'm just lazy. My own head after my stroke. Maya sat in Lila's guest room, scrolling through the comments, and she cried. Because she was sad, because she wasn't alone. She'd 3 years thinking this was her particular hell, her particular family, her particular burden. And it turned out there were thousands of people, tens of thousands, who knew exactly what it felt like to be sick and supposed to love you most. She wrote a post, then a third, fourth. She wrote about good days, the days she could use a walker for 10 minutes, and her family would say, "See, you can walk," and she'd spend the next 3 days in bed paying for it. She wrote about gaslighting, the way you're too sensitive, and it isn't that bad, and can't you just let it go, erode sense of reality, until you don't trust your own memory. She wrote about chosen family, Lila, Dr. the people who showed up, and she wrote about the choice. Decided to stop trying to make her leave her, and start leaving herself. A small publisher emailed her. "We read your blog. Interested in writing a book?" Maya stared at the email. She thought the girl who'd run along the Huron years ago, who'd never imagined any of this. The wheel blog, the book deal, She thought about the woman she was now. Tired, scarred, but finally on her own side. Yes, I'd like that. Her buzzed, Carol, Maya let it ring. She was done answering. The blog changed everything, not overnight. Nothing changes overnight. But week by week, post by post, Maya's life rearranged itself around this new thing she'd built. The readership grew, 50,000, then 100,000, then 250,000 monthly visitors. People shared her posts, people commented, people emailed, hundreds of emails, then thousands, from people with MS, with Ehlers-Danlos, with chronic Lyme, with fibromyalgia, with spinal cord injuries, with invisible illnesses that their families didn't believe in. She answered every email. She didn't have to, but she did, because she remembered what it felt like to be alone, because she remembered sitting in her apartment at 2 a.m., writing the list, thinking nobody would ever understand. And now people were writing to her and saying, "Your post made me feel less alone, and I showed this to my mom," and she finally apologized. "I left my family house for the first time after reading your blog." The book deal came through in October. A small press in Ann Arbor. 3 women, a tiny office above a bagel shop, an advance that wasn't life-changing but was enough. Maya signed the contract in their office, with Lila sitting next to her taking photos, and I'm really doing. Her copy editing clients increased. People found her through the blog, small businesses, nonprofits, a disability advocacy organization, and they wanted her to edit their websites, their newsletters, their grant proposals. She was making more money than she had before the diagnosis. Not a lot more, but enough to feel like her own person, not like someone who depended on the goodwill of a family that didn't believe. Ethan found the blog in late October. She knew he'd found it because Carol, or the closest thing to screaming that Carol did, which was a tight, controlled voice that was somehow worse. "Maya, what's this? This blog?" Ethan showed me. It's about us. About your family. You're telling lies about your brother to strangers. They're not, Mom. You're making much of it. You're from dragging our family name. I'm not using Ethan's name. I'm telling my story. My medical records are public. Well, not public, but them. This happened, Mom. You were there. You saw it. Carol was quiet. Then, Ethan says your career. His patients and his colleagues might see this. He could sense. Mom. He's a physical therapist who tells his disabled she's faking. If his colleagues find out and that is his career, that's the consequence. You're in you. Wasn't a question. You're in the attention. Blog, the book. You always mention. I felt the old thing. The guilt, the self-doubt. It was weaker now. It had been weaker since the ER, since the choice, since the blog. She recognized it for what it was. A reflex, a habit. The voice of a woman who'd spent 3 years being a problem. "No, Mom," she said. "I'm not enjoying it. I'm surviving it. There's a difference." She hung up. Called the next day. He didn't yell. He never yelled. He just said, "Your mother's very upset. And Ethan, he's talking about a lawyer. About defamation. Let him. Truth is a defense. And I have the medical records. And the witnesses." And she stopped. "Dad, are you really about Ethan's feelings?" After everything? Richard. Then, I don't know what to do, Maya. How to fix this? You can't fix it, Dad. Be quiet. The only way to fix for Ethan to apologize. And for you, Mom, to stop taking his side. That's the whole fix. Richard didn't say anything. Maya knew he didn't take sides. Taking a side meant conflict. Richard didn't do conflict. Marisol called that weekend. I saw the blog. I've been reading it. Maya, it's brilliant. You write like you talk, sharp and funny and honest. And you're helping people. I've had 3 men at the hospital where I work mention it. They don't know it's you, but you're helping people. Thanks, Aunt Marisol. And your mother called me. Said I should talk to you. It's you to take it down. Marisol laughed, dry, knowing. I told her, Carol, that girl has been silent for years while your son called her a liar. If you'd listened to her then, she wouldn't need him now. Your mother that. She never does. She'll come around. Or she won't, but that's her journey, not yours. Marisol paused. You keep writing, Mija. You keep telling the truth. Somebody has to. Maya's health stabilized. Not the transverse myelitis went away. It didn't. It never would. But because the stress that flares was gone. She wasn't going to family events where Ethan was present. She wasn't taking Carol's calls every day. She wasn't reading the group chat. She was writing. She was editing. She was answering emails from people who made me feel less alone. The pain dropped back to baseline. Manageable. The spasms came often. The arm was fully back, through the night for the first time in months. She was, for the 3 years, not waiting. Not waiting for an apology. Not waiting for her family for her. Not waiting for Ethan. She was just Thanksgiving was 3 weeks away. Carol called on me in November. Her voice was bright. Too bright. The voice she used when she wanted something. Hi, honey. Just calling about Thanksgiving. We're doing it at the house, usual time. Your dad's making the turkey. I'm doing the sides. Ethan's bringing his girl, Mom. And I was thinking, maybe you could bring that dessert you like. Mom, is Ethan going to be there? Carol paused. Well, yes, he's your brother. It's Thanksgiving. Family. Then I'm not coming. Silent. Then, Maya, it's Thanksgiving. You can't just not come. Family, I told you. If Ethan's there, I'm not. That's not a punishment. That's a boundary. I'm not spending Thanksgiving in a house with someone who pushed a wheelchair and called me a friend and never apologized. So you're just not having I'll have Thanksgiving. Family. Your family is here, Maya. No. Maya's voice was quiet. Final. My family is the people who show up. Who don't call me a liar. And that's not Ethan. And right now, it's not you and either. Not a knee over him. Hung up. She called Lila. Thanksgiving. Your plate. You, me, whoever else wants to come. I'm cooking. Lila laughed. Can't cook. Can't reach the stove. I can cook. I have a reacher. And I have you. We're doing this. Okay. We're doing this. Who else? Dr. Okonkwo's wife. Aunt Marisol. Maybe a few people from the blog. The ones in the area. The ones who get it. Got it. No Torres family allowed. Maya paused. Except maybe, no. Not yet. Maybe some, but not this year. Up. She looked out the window. The leaves were gone. November in Michigan. Bare tree sky. That you want to stay inside. But Maya felt light. Unburdened. Like she'd been holding her breath for had finally exhaled. She opened top. She started a new blog post. There I'm spending Thanksgiving with my real family. She wrote, 3 years, I spent holiday with people who didn't believe I was sick. I smiled through the jokes. I ate the food. I went home and cried. This year I'm not doing that. This year I'm spending Thanksgiving with people who showed up. The ones who didn't ask it just for it. The ones who believed me when I said I was in pain. Blood. Family is who's up. And this year I'm choosing mine. She didn't check the comments. She wheeled herself to the kitchen. She found a recipe online. She started making a list of ingredients. For the first time in 3 years, she was actually looking forward to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving at Lila's was chaotic and loud and perfect. There were 12 people, Lila and her girlfriend, Sam, not the ex, a different Sam, a software engineer with a laugh that filled the room, Dr. Okonkwo and his wife, Amara, a pediatrician who'd brought jollof rice that was so good Maya wanted to cry, Aunt Marisol, who'd brought her famous flan and a bottle of wine, 3 blog readers who'd driven from Detroit and Toledo and Grand Rapids after seeing Maya's Thanksgiving post, and a woman named Priya who'd emailed Maya 6 months ago saying, your blog saved my life, and who'd become a friend. They cooked in shifts. Lila did the turkey. She'd brined it for 2 days. She wouldn't stop talking about the brine. Sam made mashed potatoes. Dr. Okonkwo grilled vegetables on the back patio. I am a neurologist, not a cook, but I can grill. He could. They were delicious. Aunt Marisol supervised. Maya sat at the kitchen table in her wheelchair, chopping vegetables with a reacher and a specially adapted knife, and felt, for the first time in years, like she belonged. Nobody asked her if she was really in pain. Nobody made jokes about her faking. Nobody said, "Can't you just stand for one photo?" They just included her. They handed her things. They asked her opinion. They laughed at her joke. They treated her like a person. When they sat down to eat, Lila said a toast. "Not the family is everything kind. The real kind." "I want to say something," Lila said, standing with her wine glass. "I've known Maya since we were 19. I was there the day she got diagnosed. I was there the day she came home from rehab. I was there when her brother said she was faking. And her mom said, 'Let it.' And her dad said, and I watched her. I watched her get smaller and quieter and more tired year after year. And year, Lila's voice. This year she got bitten. She started a blog. She wrote a book. She told the truth. And she stopped waiting for people who were never going to show up. So, she raised us. To Maya. To Cho's family. To the people. Everyone raised their glasses. Maya's wet. She said, 'Shut up.' Lila and everyone laughed, ate. And it was the best Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, myth. The Torres family Thanksgiving was null. Maya found out later. For us all. Who'd gotten the recap from a cousin who'd been there. But imagine it. She'd been to enough Torres Thanksgivings to keep of it. Ethan had brought a girlfriend. A woman named Brittany who was clinic. Who didn't know the story. Who'd been told, "Maya and I don't get along." Complicated. He was hosting, or trying to. He'd made a toast about family and forgiveness and the holidays being together. And nodded. Because that's what you do at Thanksgiving. You nod at the toast, eat garbage. Carol had. She made the sides, set the table, smiled when she and drinking, usual. And when Ethan started in on the forgiveness thing, some snapped. Fork. The clink out in the dining room. "Ethan," she said. "Enough." Everyone looked at her. Carol raised her voice. Carol never made scenes. Carol was the peacekeeper. "Mom," Ethan said, "don't mom me. You pushed your sister out of her wheelchair. You called her a faker. You said, in the emergency room with a paralyzed arm, that she was doing it for attention. And she's not here today because of you. Because of what you did." And Carol's voice broke. She wiped off her hand. "I keep telling her to forgive you. I keep saying, he's family. But this family is already broken. You broke it. And I've been letting you, because I was scared. Scared that if I took her side, you'd be mad. Scared that the family would fall apart. But it already fell apart. The day you pushed her, I've been pretending it hasn't. Don't pretend anymore." The table was silent. Richard, who'd gravy, set it down. He looked at then at then at his plate. "Your mother," Richard said. Richard never spoke. Richard was the man who said, "Want to be in the middle." Richard was the silence. "I something a long time ago," Richard said. His voice was quiet, but the room was so still everyone could hear. "You started with the faking jokes. When you didn't stand for the photo. When you pushed her. I should have said something. I didn't, and I'm sorry. To you. But to Maya." His chair scraped the floor. "Are you kidding me? Both of you? You're taken? After everything. After she put that blog, after she's ruining Ethan." And her voice. The voice Carol used when she was a teacher. The voice room full of third graders. "Sit down and finish your dinner, or leave. But I don't want to hear another word about Maya being the problem. She's not the problem, you are. And I'm done pretending otherwise." Ethan left. He grabbed his coat, said something to Brittany that nobody could hear, walked out. The door slammed. The house was quiet. Carol sat there. She looked at the chair. She played. She started crying. Not the quiet, old crying. The real kind. The place you didn't know you had. Richard put it. Nobody said anything. That night, at 10 p.m., Maya's phone rang. Maya was in Lila's living room. Others were in the kitchen, doing dishes, or pretending to do dishes, or drinking wine and laughing. Maya saw the caller ID. She hesitated. Then she answered, "Oh, Maya," Carol's voice, like she'd been crying for hours. "Maya, I'm sorry." Phone. She didn't say anything. "I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I'm sorry I told you to let it go. I'm sorry I liked that post. I'm sorry I invited him to things when I knew you wouldn't come. I'm sorry I called you sensitive. I'm sorry I made this more important than your pain. I'm so sorry, baby." Moist her eyes. She'd waited 3 years for this. She'd imagined it 100 times. Shower, in the car, in the ER. She'd imagined what it would feel like. She'd imagined catharsis, awaiting, tired, and sad. And underneath it all, a spark of something to have been hope. "I know, Mom," she said. "I know you're sorry. Can I see you? Can we?" "Not yet. Not with Ethan, but maybe soon. Just you and Dad if you want. I do. That more than anything. Okay, then we'll figure it out. But Mom, yeah? This doesn't fix everything. An apology doesn't do 3 years. It's a not a finish. I know, Carol said. I know. But it's something, right? Toward the kitchen, where she could hear Lila laughing, where Dr. Okonkwo was telling a story about a patient. Dishes were getting done by people chosen to be there. She said. Thing. She hung up. She sat there for a minute. Lap. The house warm out and full. Lila came in from the kitchen. Okay, she said. Maya looked at her. Best friend? At the woman who'd shown up every single time, who'd driven her to the ER at midnight, who'd installed a ramp in her house because, you're here enough, who'd said, you're not too cowardly when Maya needed to hear it most. Yeah, Maya said, and the first time in a long time, she meant it. I'm okay. The book came out in June. It was called Still Faking, the same title as the blog, the question mark still there, still sharp, still darkly funny. The cover was a photograph of a wheelchair on an empty lawn, the kind of lawn where a family reunion might happen, the grass long and unkempt, the sky gray. Maya had chosen it. The publisher had wanted something more inspirational, a sunset maybe, or a wheelchair on a mountaintop. Maya had said no. This isn't an inspiration story, she'd told them. It's a truth story. The reading was at Literati, the independent bookstore on Washington Street in Ann Arbor, the kind of place with creaky wooden floors and a coffee shop in the back and readings in the basement. 50 people showed up, more than Maya had expected. She sat in her wheelchair behind a folding table, the book stacked in front of her, a microphone clipped to her shirt, and she looked out at the faces. Some she recognized. Lila, Dr. Okonkwo, Aunt Marisol, Priya, a few blog readers. Some she didn't, and she, this is I'm really. She read from the first chapter. The part about the reunion, the push, the fall, the letter, the 5 words. She read it the way she'd written it. Flat, precise, no drama. Because the drama was in the facts and didn't need embellishment. When she got to the part where Dr. Okonkwo said, I'm her neurologist. You're wrong, someone in the audience clapped. Then more people. Then the whole room, minded. She read the last paragraph of, I spent 3 years waiting for my family to. I waited for my brother to apologize. I waited for my mother to me. I waited for my father to sing. And then one day, lying in an ER bed with a paralyzed arm, I realized I didn't need them. I needed to believe myself. The proof was always there. The MRIs, the EMGs, the rehab notes, the pain that never fully went away. I had the evidence. I just never used it because I was waiting for someone else to validate my reality. And the truth is, nobody can validate your reality but you. Not your family, not your doctor, not even a neurologist with 5 words. You have to do it yourself. Once you do, once you stop waiting and believing, everything changes. Not because the pain goes away. It doesn't. But because you're no longer. The room was quiet, then applause. Applause. The real kind. The kind that comes from people who've been there. No. His eyes were wet. She didn't wipe them. She let them be wet, and then she saw them in the back row, standing, because all the chairs were taken. And Richard. They told her they were coming, invited them. Well, she'd told Carol about the reading in a text 3 weeks ago, and Carol had said, we'll try to make it. And Maya had heard, probably won't. That. But they were here. Carol of the book. Richard was standing behind her, his hands in his pockets, nervous? Proud. Maya couldn't tell. The Q&A lasted 40 minutes. People asked about the blog, about the book, about transverse myelitis, about how to talk to family members who don't believe. Maya answered. She was honest. I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring it out. What worked for me? A woman in the second row cried about the ER. A man in a wheelchair in the back said, my brother does the same thing, and I'm sorry. I know what that feels like. When it was over, people lined up to have books signed. Maya signed them. To Sarah, keep fighting. To James, you're not faking. To Priya, my friend. And she talked to each person because that's who she was. Because she remembered the invisible. And Richard were there. The line was gone. Carol was holding the book. She'd bought it, not taken a free copy. Behind her, looking at the floor. Hi, Carol said. Small. Hi. Maya looked at her mother. At the woman who'd spent 3 years telling her to let it go, liked a post calling her a liar, who'd finally, on Thanksgiving, said, I'm sorry. Looked older than Maya. Tired. Like the letter too. Carol said. She held up a book. The whole thing. Every page, she paused. I cried through most of it, not because it was sad. Well, it was sad because I didn't know. I didn't know we were hurting. I thought if I just kept the peace, if I just didn't make it would all work out. Instead, her voice broke. Instead, I made it worse. I made you carry it alone, and I'm so sorry. Maya looked at her father. Dad looked up. His eyes were. I read it too, Dad. I should have said something. A long time ago. When it started, I should have been your father. And I'm sorry. Maya sat there. The bookstore was closing. The staff were stairs, the coffee shop. But nobody rushed them. I appreciate that, Maya said. Both of you. And I want to try, but I need you to know this isn't over. An apology doesn't undo 3 years. The blog is still up. The book is... Ethan is still stopped. Where is Ethan? Carol and Richard exchanged a look. He moved to... Richard said. In March. Got a job at a clinic in Portland. He doesn't call much. We talk maybe once a month. Did he ever apologize? No. Carol's voice was quiet. Hasn't. He says you used him for the book. That you profited from his mistakes. He's not ready. Maybe he never will be. Maya nodded. Expected this. She'd hoped for different. Hoped that the book, the blog, Ruth, would somehow make Ethan see. But she'd learned over the last year that you can't make someone see what they see. You can only control what you do. Okay, she said. I'm not waiting for him anymore, but I need you to know. Want a relationship with me, Ethan can't be part of it. Not until he apologizes. And maybe not. That's my bound. I need you to respect it. Woo, Richard said. That's not here. We out him. That was our choice. Maya looked at them. Really looked. At her mother, who'd finally stopped peacekeeping. At father, who'd finally spoken. At the 2 people who'd failed her, and who were, slowly, perfectly, trying to do better. Okay, she said. Then let's try. Dinner? Next week? Just the 3 of us. No Ethan, no pressure. His face crumpled. Yes, Maya. We'd like that very much. Carol bent down, Maya in her wheelchair, and it was awkward and imperfect, and it was the first real hug they'd shared in years. Richard patted Maya's shoulder. It was the most physical shown her since she was a kid. They left. Maya sat in the empty bookstore, the signer, the last of the staff turning off lights. She thought about the last year, the reunion, the 5 words, the list, the blog, the ER, the choice, the book, the parent row. She thought about Ethan, in Portland, angry, still not apologizing, hate him. She didn't will. She just think about him much anymore. He was not happy ending, but an ending. A month later, Maya spoke at a disability advocacy event in Detroit. 200 people. She was on a panel with other disabled writers. The moderator asked the last question. Audience members are dealing with family members who don't believe they're sick. What would you say to them? Maya thought about it. She thought about the reunion, the grass in her face, the laughter, the 5 words. She thought about the ER-ized arm, her mother's, "Can't you just let it go?" She thought about the block, the parents in the back row. She smiled. It was the sharp smile she'd been for, but it was different now. Lighter. I'd say, let them, she said. Let them see you're faking. Let them call you sensitive. Let them tell you to let it go, because their disbelief says more about them than it does about you. You don't need them to believe you. You have your body, your truth. You have your medical words. And, she paused. My neurologist, the truth. And that's an audience laughed, then applauded. I looked out at the crowd. 200 people, each of them disabled, doing something. And this family was born into, the one I built, the one that showed. After a young woman there came up to her. She was maybe 20. She was crying. Your book, she said. Your blog. It made me leave my house. They didn't believe me either. They said I was MS. Moved in with my sister. I'm finally okay. Maya took her hand. I'm so proud of you, said. And she meant the woman left. Maya sat there, the auditorium. Thought about the girl she'd been 3 years ago. The girl who could run. She thought about the woman she was now, chair, in pain some days, angry still, but free. Free from the waiting. Free from the need believed by people who would never believe her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lila. Done? I'm outside. Food? Maya smiled. She typed, done. Thai food sounds perfect. She wheeled herself out of the auditorium. The hallway long and bright and accessible. Ramps, elevators. The kind of building that had been designed for people like her. She thought about the authorized personnel only sign from so many